Welcome along. Every single time there's a terror attack, the first instinct of the security services is try and cover it up.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found.
It's definitely not terror. It's definitely not terror. Well, what about the ISIS flag attached to his car? I mean, you can't see it there because it was actually ironically covered up by security officials on the scene. Why, though? Why try to hide it? OK, we had a picture of the attacker very early. Why? Well, because he had a mugshot, didn't he? Which implies he's committed crimes before. And here we go.
Reports coming out here in local media that he was turned in twice for his radicalization within the United States Army, yet he still served in a very high role within the reserves. And so you're finding out more and more about this individual. But if he did have links to ISIS, as he protests, that he obviously wanted the world to know about because he put the flag on his car when he did this act of terrorism.
Yeah. Obviously, the usual types are tripping over themselves to say that he's some kind of all-American man next door. He's a US Army veteran, born and raised in Texas, isn't it? I mean, there can be no question that, checks notes, Shamsuddin Jabbar is as American as apple pie. We see it every time, don't we? The FBI put this out. Oh, yeah, OK, they put this out. There we are. So, look at this. An ISIS flag was located in the vehicle, and the FBI is working to determine the subject's potential associations and affiliations with terrorist organisations. Right. Do we not think that investigation might take about 10 seconds? But anyway, he's killed 15 people. He's got an ISIS flag on the back of the car, but we couldn't possibly jump to conclusions, could we? Frankly, there's just no way of knowing, is there, what the true motives are here? I mean, the guy basically has "I'm a jihadi" tattooed on his forehead, but unfortunately, the bollards of peace that we have everywhere now, usually to protect us, of course, as we all know from radical Mormons, it's always the Mormons, isn't it? Those bollards of peace, they were under construction. So here, in a way, we now have two great failures of Western culture rolled into one. The fact that we have essentially cuckolded ourselves to radical Islam, but that we also never seem able to complete a basic infrastructure project. Here's the Islamist talking about himself in a video clip.
I'm born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, and now live in Houston. And I've been here all my life. With the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist and IT specialist, where I learned the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch.
Look at that. You'd never know, would you? You'd never know, really. Apart from the fact that intelligence services might literally have known. And it appears that there's a network of jihadis now in the New Orleans area.
We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We are aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates.
So now they tell us, aren't you just sick and tired of everyone always tripping over themselves to try to do everything possible to avoid saying it's yet another radical Muslim? Let's get the thoughts from my panel this evening. We do, of course, have the wonderful Emma Wolf. We've also got Alice Grant and Samuel Sweet. Thank you very much again. Look, I know that we spoke a little bit about this at the top of the last hour, but I just kind of want to move it on a little bit, I think, and say that it's 15 dead now, sadly. We believe that there are more people on the run as well at the moment. What do you make, Emma, of this idea sometimes that there appears to be a big resistance to actually just saying what we all know, right? The ISIS flag's a giveaway.
Yeah. What is the cover-up all about? Surely the overriding priority just has to be the truth. Yeah, whatever side you come down on, just what we know and what we can see. And what you've shown there is what we can actually see and what we know of this suspect's past. If there were more IEDs found in the French Quarter, in the area, this is a potentially even more dangerous and deadly situation. Already 15 dead, possibly many more. Surely, therefore, the priority has to be not only respect for the victims, i.e. telling the truth, but also safety, public safety. These are all of us going out every day. We need to know as much as we can be told in order to keep ourselves safe.
It's also, it undermines...
It's not that we want to attack people or say that, these certain groups are doing nasty things. It's not that we want to invent lies. It's that the public would like to know the facts so they can keep themselves safe, Patrick.
On that, it does seem as though there is this attempt at a cover-up, and it undermines trust, doesn't it? And it's a depressing state of affairs when you see press conferences like we've seen today. I don't know about you, but my first instinct is I'm looking for what they're not telling us, if that makes sense.
Precisely, and I think something that Emma touched on, which was a very good point, is the fact that we want to know the truth. And we've seen over the last years many crises where I don't think the British public have felt that full confidence in the media. And I'm thinking about COVID here. I'm thinking about when it comes to things like Brexit. I mean, if we remember, the amount of media coverage telling us that we would literally fall off the face of the earth if it should go through. I mean, these are things that would really undermine public trust in our institutions. And that is a massive issue because ultimately it's affecting our democracy. If we cannot trust our media to cover news transparently and with truth in mind, then we can no longer watch the news just believing in anything they say.
Do you think we can handle the truth? Again, I will say that at the moment, just so we've got the latest update on it, it appears that there's possibly 3 or 4 people currently on the run who may have been responsible for planting other devices around the New Orleans area, so we'll watch this space. There is also this quite bizarre thing taking place at the moment where a Tesla's blown up outside a Trump hotel, so we're going to keep you updated with that. Do you think there's a case, Samuel, to say that actually we can't handle the truth? If we're told all of this stuff, we might go out and start, burning hotels to the ground and all that stuff?
I don't so much think it's a case of not being able to handle the truth, but what I think probably is the authorities' thinking is we live in such an age where social media often can dictate the way that these incidents are debated, and there's I think within the people's interest sometimes, although it can erode trust, I suppose, to keep the information to a bare minimum, to avoid misinformation being put out there, dangerous assumptions being made, and I can understand both sides of that particular coin. But as I said, the social media age we're in now, it's so easy for somebody just to say something.
Well, the video's out. More often than not, there's a video of it, of course, isn't there? Yeah. And then it becomes.
But it's when we're not being told the truth. Surely that creates the vacuum and the anger and the conspiracy theories and the lies and the rumours and the social media speculation. When we're not told the truth. And look, if we can't trust our authority, our security services, and they've failed many, many times, if they can't be trusted to keep us safe and to go after known suspects, because many of these people were known to the authorities. As you say, why was there a mugshot suddenly pops up? If we can't trust our security services, then we trust ourselves to keep ourselves safe and not to go to Christmas markets or not to go to areas which are considered high risk. I wouldn't take my child to a Christmas market if the authorities told me. It is terribly depressing. It's changing our ways of life. In Germany, across Germany, Christmas markets are a massive thing. They are stopping having them.
Not a chance I would ever go. It was ridiculous, isn't it? Because actually it would probably be quite a nice day out.
It is a lovely thing to do, but it's not safe. If it's not safe, I want to know that.
We've got these bollards. I get a bit of stick for saying this. I tend to call them the bollards of peace, of course, but they're everywhere, though, aren't they, Alice? And in this case, unfortunately, they were not erected because, ironically, there was maintenance taking place on them, which didn't happen. So, why are they? Why are they everywhere? At what point do we think we wake up and we go, look, we have got a massive problem here?
No, for sure. I think it was pointed out that actually one thing to be positive about is that at least here in London, during our New Year's celebrations, there was lots of effort, especially with bollards, to make sure that the public was safe. So we can be happy and proud about that. But as you said, these things are here to protect us. If they're not being used, that it utterly undermines their point. But something Emma was saying earlier as well, which I just want to touch again about the media, is the fact that I agree that I think that the media stokes a lot more panic, fear and anger than I think anything else, and especially that the truth. We want to know the truth. I think we humans
Depends
like
where you look
the
at that,
truth.
doesn't it? Because I get it. From people who are not particularly, aligned or whatever, I think many people might accuse me of doing that. They might say, you stoking. So I would look at it as I want to talk about this. Why have we got armed police at Christmas markets? Why have we got... So I don't want to... There's that fine line. I don't want to scare the living daylights out of anyone, but at the same time, it's there, isn't it?
I was just thinking particularly about the COVID coverage, and I remember when it was like the BBC had like the
great.
deaths like going off daily on your
the death
screen.
ticker.
I mean, exactly, things like that. I mean, they are designed. These are behavioural things which are designed to scale.
Bit of a psyop.
I haven't seen a death ticker recently to show us the obesity crisis in this country, or the flu crisis. I mean, many people, or the pensioners dying of the cold.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely spot on. Are you worried about how Trump handles this? So, when we had an incident during his first regime, there was this so-called Muslim travel ban, which caused a huge amount of controversy. He's got that in his locker, hasn't he? I mean, are you concerned about maybe the way he might handle this?
Yeah, actually. I mean, I say it how it is. I find Trump is an incredibly dangerous and stoking individual. And I think that he can mobilise a base. And if you look at the way he's responded to incidents before, and then you can go back to, say, like Charlottesville, where there was a demonstration, the Unite the Right demonstration, where a counter-demonstration was attacked, and I think somebody was actually mowed down in a car and killed. And, he refused to condemn that in the same way that he, at this very early stage here, is condemning it wholeheartedly.
OK. On that, then, so I can see you were putting a little bit of face there. Go on.
I just come out in a rash when people on the left call him dangerous. There are many... Well, firstly, he's just been elected. Secondly, when people agree with someone and then everybody else calls them dangerous, I just don't understand what's going on. All these millions... It's so disrespectful.
But I think that deliberately targeting a particular religion, an entire population of a religion... based on the actions of a very, very small amount of people is dangerous. That is stoking. That is inflaming. Absolutely, it is. You can't collectively punish the entire religion of Islam based on the actions of some pathetic terrorists.
Let's look at the word and the definition of dangerous, because I think clearly it might mean to you very different things here. When I think of dangerous, I think of someone who's actively making threats to kill people, like, someone like Putin, or someone who has a large-scale army that they are stoking war, or so
who's driving into crowds or inciting violence in some way.
So I think we should use the word dangerous quite carefully, because the issue is that should hold power, and that should mean something. And if we just, perhaps use it a bit negligently, then people will be fearful of the President of the United States of America. He's been president before. It was fine. In fact, the economy in America was never better. So we should really just...
This man's taken a bullet, and imagine the hysteria of that if Kamala Harris had they'd tried to assassinate her. The interpretations, him saying peacefully we should come together was, he incited a march on Capitol Hill. All of this stuff is just so so open to interpretation. But I really object to people calling him dangerous.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I think that if everything does go... I appreciate you will probably be less optimistic than I am, but if everything does go well with Trump, then I hope that we have a blueprint that we can copy-paste here, and maybe in other areas around Europe as well, when it comes to things like border security, when it comes to things like maybe clamping down on this kind of stuff as well. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Look, just to reiterate that latest on that incident in New Orleans, as we understand it, 15 people have sadly lost their lives now after a man with an ISIS flag on the back of his truck, pickup truck, careered through New Year's Eve celebrations. There are around 30 or so others are currently injured in hospital. The attacker has been named. Yes, he was born in Texas. He even served in the army, apparently, at one stage. But again, I will emphasise he did have an ISIS flag on the back of his truck, so that tends to speak for itself, doesn't it? But